Okay, good morning and welcome to the latest part of my series of videos with regards building the DJH A8 kit, and I just need to show you a few things that I've done since the last time I prepared a program for you. So what we've done is, you may just be able to see, there are some 3-etched parts which are the boiler band clamps. I pre-curved them, fitted them with super glue. I could have soldered them, but I fitted them with super glue. And there is one underneath as well on there. The parts are marked in the instructions, and if you lose any of them, there are a number of spares, thank goodness, but luckily I didn't lose any. The other thing that I've done, which you may be able to see through here, is I have fitted the reversing lever. Now, there's a little bit of a cautionary tale with regards to this. It is a lost wax casting and you need to remove part of it. Rather foolishly, I used cutters on it and I ended up breaking the casting. So I would suggest when you get to do that, if you haven't done it already, please use either some form of saw or a slitting disc to cut it down to size. It's actually marked in the instructions what part you need to remove. Let me just find it just as a reminder for you. It is a lost, as I said, it is a lost wax casting. Right, here it is. It's on the same fret as the oval buffers. So it's this bit at the top, and you need to remove the straight part out of the end. Just be very careful when you remove it. Try not to break the casting. It's a nickel silver lost wax casting. It's quite brittle. So I've done that. The other thing that I have done is I've prepared the roof. There was a little bit of flash that needed removing from the roof. This is a metal roof. There is also an alternative casting for a wooden roof if that's what you want, a wooden roof, but I'm building a later BR1 which is steel roof. The vents I've soldered on using the usual method. Tin with 145, then tin again with 70, and then use indirect heat to fit them on. And I've cleaned them up a little bit, so there'll be a bit more cleaning later. In the instructions it actually suggests that you fit the roof in place. All I would caution against doing this at the moment, because just confine yourself to checking that the roof fits and there's no gap all the way around. You can solder it from underneath. You can solder it from underneath and fit it. But if you fit the roof, you will have great difficulty fitting the cupboard, because that is right up near the roof, and there is a half-etched rectangle on the rear spectacle plate which the cupboard doesn't actually fit into. It fits on the inside of the half-etch, so it's really just a guide to help you fit it. But the hard bit is actually fitting the rear of the bunker and the inside steps. There is a procedure for doing it in the instructions, but I found it was quite difficult and pretty fiddly to do it even with the roof off. So with the roof on, it is going to be quite a hard job to do. But this is another part of the instructions that we have jumped slightly. So what we have done is we have jumped over page 12, which is the back end, and I will cover that separately at a later date. I haven't even started to think about doing that yet, but I will do over the next couple of weeks. What I've done is I've finished 11. So, and the other thing that I needed to show you was I fitted the small injector on the inside, but not done the pipe work because it needs the chassis fitted. And you've got to, if you want to remove the chassis afterwards, you've got to be careful about how the pipe work is either split or fixed, and I haven't come out to an idea yet how I'm going to do it, but I'll relate that to you later. So we're going to forget doing the back end for the moment, and we're going to concentrate on pages 13 and 14 of the instructions. So, like I said, what you need to do, you need to fit the cupboard, which again, it's a white metal casting. I've done it using, again, tinned the rear spectacle plate with 145 and then 70 degree, and then just run the iron round. And the casting is hollow, but it's quite substantial, so if you're careful, there's little risk of actually damaging it. The other thing that you need to consider in this part is that there are a number of, or there are a couple of gauge clusters, the one on either side of the cab. What I've done here is I haven't fitted them yet, but I will do later. I'm not going to show that on camera because it's you should be able to do it if you get to this stage. There are dimensions. It needs both clusters need to be 12 millimeters from the front spectacle plate and 1.5 millimeter down from the top of the cab side. And this is another good reason why you should leave fixing the cab roof till later, because fitting these gauge clusters would be quite difficult with the roof on. But it says 12 millimeters from the front spectacle plate and 1.5 millimeter down from the top of the cab side, and this part over the cab opening is 1.5 millimeters wide. So all you need to do is get a straight edge that you can fit in here, butt it up against the front and draw a line so that it's level with the bottom of the edge part of the cab opening, where the cab opening starts, and that gives you your 1.5 millimeters, and then just measure off along that line 12 millimeters, and that's where the gauge cluster is going to fit on either side. You do it on either side. So I've done the markings for that myself, but I've not fitted anything yet. The other thing that you need to consider is there's quite a few large white metal castings involved in this stage. If you can see, the inside steps on either side, these are all fixed in place. I did this earlier in the week, along with the bunker rear, which is this casting here, which you can probably see. They're quite substantial white metal castings, and they do not need soldering, or they need very little soldering, but there's nothing particularly to worry about with soldering here. What I've done is I've fitted the castings which fit inside. So these, it's difficult, this casting here and the one above, what you do is you lie them in the recess in the cab, and then they're actually held in place with 2 self-tapping screws which go through that casting into the bunker rear. So there are dimples in the castings, so you don't have to worry about positioning where the castings are going to go, or where to drill the holes in the castings. What I did is I drilled the holes in the foot plate. I opened them out to 2.2 millimeters, and then I drilled the holes 1.8 in the inside pieces and 1.5 in the rear bunker. That gives you a little bit of adjustment, and then I've done the screws up. Don't do them up too tightly because the casting is hollow on the inside, and if you do it up too tightly, it will start to deform it. Obviously, if you've got a strong right hand, it will definitely deform it. So when it starts to bite and you start to get the maximum resistance, stop, otherwise you'll deform the castings. So what we're going to move on to next is the cab is rather handily does as casting, the inside of the cab. So that's the inside of the cab, and what I've done is I've drilled out the 2 holes at either end. I've drilled them out 2 millimeters because they're going to accept an M2 screw, and they go in the nuts that you did right at the start of building the body. The 2 holes at this end, they are to retain the back head. So I've drilled them out 1.5 or 1.8? 1.8. I've drilled these ones out 1.8 like I did with the castings inside the cab, and then there are 2 holes on the bottom of the back head, and I've drilled them out 1.5 like I did with the bunker bottom, and it sits like that once you've completed it, and then this whole thing fits up from underneath. There are also 2 other castings which I will show you. These castings are the tank sides that go inside, and I'm pretty sure that I will solder those, white metal solder those from the inside, and the back head and the cab foot plate go. That's the problem with not having soldered anything. This goes up from underneath and fits inside, and the bunkers fit. They're sort of like a step inside, but if you build the kit you'll see. But that's what it's like. Just no, I'll put it the wrong way round. Hold on, let's get it out. Let's get the right one. Right, so it goes that way round. Right, and you can see, hold on. So it sits inside. I won't solder it to the cab side, I'll only solder it at the bottom, but make sure it does sit level when you get round to it. And again, I won't show you how I've done that because I've got some other things to do first, namely I've got to build this. So I will show you this when I've built it, and when I come back to do the next bit, it will be a continuation of fitting the cab out. Another thing to so that you're aware of, I think I have mentioned this before. I mentioned it when I spoke about the ejector pipe. There is to retain the glazing inside, or the front and the back, there is sort of like a false cab interior, a spectacle plate, and you sandwich the glazing between the spectacle plates that are in place and these false ones. You can obviously do it with contact adhesive, but please be aware that you need to check that everything fits before you come to fit those pieces. So again, like I suggested, and when we did the chassis and everything, do some dry runs, check that everything fits how you expect it before you commit yourself to fixing it permanently. So that's about it. It's a bit of a short one this time, and what we will do is, when we have some time next, once I've constructed the back head, I will come back and do a bit more of a detailed presentation on how you or how I tackled detailing the cab interior. But thank you for watching this, albeit brief video, and please watch out for the next instalment, which should come in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.